everybody, I'm Jerome from Long Island, New York, and this is B.F.A.M cooking. Let's get into it. Today's episode, working on some bread. It's going to be that stuff that everybody's making now. Why? We're all stuck in the house for so long. We're trying to get creative. I'm going to make the world's best sourdough bread. I can't wait for you to have it. Come right up.
You will need 2 large bread proofing baskets or a large bowl about 8 inches wide, a sharp paring knife or one of those bread slashing tools, mixing bowl about 6 quarts wide to put all the mixing of the 2 doughs together, at the single dough, Dutch oven, cooling rack, sourdough starter, about 4 tablespoons in a digital scale. So this recipe makes 2 loaves of bread. You will need 4 tablespoons of active sourdough starter, 100 grams of all-purpose flour, and 100 grams of warm water. I would suggest you get the best flour you can afford, which I think happens to be one of the best, King Arthur's. Use that for everything. The dough itself, you need 460 grams of water, 20 grams of salt, 800 grams of all-purpose flour, again, King Arthur's. This is going to make 2 loaves. For you can give it away, you can make one dough and freeze another one. Do what you need to do. After feeding your starter for the second time, you need to confirm by marking it that your starter will rise. If it doesn't rise, then there's a problem with your starter and you need to start all over again with your starter before you move on to the next step. But if your starter doesn't get to the top, you don't have a good starter. It needs to be very active, so feed it twice. There is nothing like warm bread in the morning, so you have to start this. I generally do it the night before so that when you wake up you can throw the bread right in the oven and have fresh bread. Don't forget to balance your scale. Set it to 0, put your bowl on, and then reset it to 0. Add the flour. Next up, add the salt. And then pour in that water, nice warm water. So your starter should have risen, doubled almost to the top, if not to the top of the quart container. And you're going to add that to the water and the salt and the flour, and you're going to mix that all together. You're looking to create a what they call a rag dough. It's just stirring together and so that you have all of the ingredients incorporated. It's going to look like a rag. That's basically why they call it a rag dough. So you're going to continue to mix until this stuff is fully incorporated, and you're going to let it rest for about 15 minutes or so. So it's mostly just mixing. It takes you like less than 5, and then let it rest. So you're going to want to cover it because during this stage you want the water to be mixed into the dough and not evaporate. You're going to mix this, pulling from the far side and spinning the bowl at the same time. Pull, spin, stir, pull, spin, stir, pull, spin, stir. This is creating air pockets. You're going to let the dough rest for about 30 minutes between each interval, but you're going to do it 4 times. Each time the dough will be getting tighter and tighter. More volume will be created and more air will be sucked into the dough itself. You're trying to get more air into the dough as it rises. Because you're developing gluten, you're actually making that gluten. You'll see that now in this step, it's starting to get tougher, but the bread itself is getting smoother. It's creating those those bonds that will sort of make like the foam itself, the bread itself, will have a better structure and a nice crumb. So just keep doing this pulling and folding and pulling and folding action. I use a spatula. Some people use their hand. I prefer to use a spatula because I don't want my hands all sticky and stuff. Okay, so we're at that time where you take the big loaf out. It's one gigantic loaf now, and we're going to try and divide it up into 2 equal part loaves. Generally, I use flour on the bench just to get it so that it's not as sticky. At this point, it really won't be that sticky or shouldn't be that sticky, but it's enough to be annoying to me anyway. So you're going to divide it in half, 2 equal loaves. You're going to set one aside. And then we're going to start to make a ball out of it. So try not to take too much air out of it while stretching a little bit. As you can see, it's not tearing, it's just folding over and stretching. Once again, if you've done this correct, you've got a good gluten structure, and it'll be easy to fold and bond together. So we're just trying to make air pockets again. So you're stretching a little bit, trying to roll it on itself. Going to make a nice little round. As you can see, the skin on the outside is nice and smooth. Our next step is to actually flour the either if you're using a clean dish towel or something in a bowl, or you have one of these baskets like I have, which comes with a little canvas sort of thing that you can flour, and you want to get the bread, the top of the bread first dusted with, in my case, I'm going to use sesame seeds. So you're going to pick this up and put the top down into the sesame seeds. And then you're going to take that same top and try and get it so that it's in the bottom of the basket. So once you have it in the basket, you're going to want to stitch the bottom. This is the bottom, so the top is at the bottom and the bottom is at the top currently. You're stitching it together so that you're locking in all those air pockets that you took the time to fold in. Don't worry about how pretty it is. It's going to be on the bottom of the bread. So we're going to do our second loaf of bread. It's going to be much faster, obviously. So we're going to get the bread out. We're going to form it into a ball. We're going to take that ball. We're going to roll it into the sesame seeds, and then we're going to place it in a basket. Both loaves of bread are going to go to be into the refrigerator to be cold fermented. Now, the reason why we're doing that is, one, to get the shape, help it stay into that shape, form a nice crust. And the last reason is to give it more flavor. The longer you keep it in the refrigerator, cold fermenting, the more flavor is developing, the more sourness that you get. So in my case, my wife likes it medium sour, She starts to notice it around, so we do 24 hours. So it's the next day and you're ready to bake your bread. You want to preset your oven to 500 degrees. You're going to install your pot in there to get preheated. That's your Dutch oven. You take the loaves of bread out. As you can see, they're nice and shiny. They've risen a little bit, considerably. I think maybe 1.5 times of what's normal or what they were. They flattened out and they've locked up that skin that you'll have from it being in the refrigerator. It's a nice way of getting a nice crust. It's a slight thickness, so the whole thing is like a bubble, and it's trapped all those little air pockets inside the dough. Now all you have to do is just bake it, and when it comes out, it's going to be perfect. So I like to use parchment for this. I like the crinkle of it. I mean, you could use a Silpat or some type of silicone pad to put underneath there, but the parchment paper works just fine, and it gives that little bit of protection so that it doesn't burn, right? The pot itself or the bottom of the bread. You'll need to make the parchment slightly bigger than the loaf so that you can get it into the pot. This is the part where you're just about to use the knife, and you cut into the bread at a slight angle and cut across. Now you want to make sure you made a clean cut all the way across, because this is the relief from when the oven spring happens, when the bread rises and it wants to break out of itself. Baby, that's right, we're making it. It is something I've been doing since this pandemic has started. I really, really wish you could have it. It is one of the favorite things my wife and I love, with some good butter or some garlic bread. Make it into garlic bread, or you can have it with that. I think you can do it with olive oil, salt, pepper, seasoning. It is out of this world. I've done everything with this. You can make pizza, you can make focaccia, you can make bread. Any leftovers you can make into croutons. Why you have leftovers, no idea. But hey, you can make it. Crust. Look at the crumb. Oh my God, look at the crumb on this. Look at this. Mmm. Mmm. The crust, perfect. The sourness you can get on the sides of your mouth. Let's just say if you have to make anything else with this, make it with just butter. It is beautiful. Sourdough bread, guys. You're gonna love this.
Cindy! Bread's done.